Joining me now is Sarah Smith. This is one of my favorite races in the country. It's Smith on Smith crime, Adam Smith versus Sarah Smith. And Adam Smith is the incumbent. He's the one that takes PAC money. Sarah is the Just Democrat that doesn't. Sarah, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Such a Sarah Smith move to show up as Daenerys.
Of course, but everyone runs around the hallways yelling Khaleesi at me in the campaign office, and I'm like, well, I got to do it.
See, now we're having fun. Little known fact, Russ Feingold, when he first won office in Wisconsin, went around the state campaigning as Elvis. He would get up in an Elvis outfit. I'm not kidding, okay?
I'm perfectly prepared. I'm ready for the win then. I'm gonna go all around the district just dressed as Daenerys. Make my car look like a dragon. I'll do it.
You're not, what was the line? You're not looking to fix the wheel, you're looking to break the wheel or something?
Break the wheel. We say it all the time.
That's right, that's right. That's what a progressive populist looks like. All right. Well, you are stormborn and you are in the middle of a storm. So let's talk about that storm.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, what do you want to know? Okay,
by the way, if anybody's watching this later, we are recording this on Halloween, okay? Just so you know.
This is a theme.
Yes, I had a tie on earlier because I was pretending to be a mainstream news anchor for Halloween. That's what I was dressed as. Anyway, so if I was still doing that role, Sarah, I would say, it looks like you want to help the people in your district. How are you going to pay for that?
That's my favorite question. And I'm like, listen, we've got a speculative tax on Wall Street. We're already paying for healthcare and the oil subsidies and put them into green energy. If we can pump all that money into the war machine, we can pump it back into our infrastructure. The money is there. We have to make the choice to use it the right way.
That's right. That's a great answer. And in terms of Adam Smith, my issue with him, and I need people to understand, this is a unique election. It's not exactly unique as it happens in California too, but it's very different than what most of you are used to. It is two Democrats against each other in the general election. So Sarah, according to the pundits, was supposed to lose in the primary to a Republican, but she didn't get that memo. So she won instead.
No one told us.
That's right. So now that she's won in the primary, that means that the top two vote getters go to the general election. They're both Democrats. So there's usually what the Democrats use as an excuse is, well, don't vote against Adam Smith, otherwise a really bad right-winger will win. No, if you vote against Adam Smith, in this case, a really great left-winger will win, right? So that's why I love the system in Washington, and I think in California as well. But so Adam Smith is a Democrat, so a lot of folks will say, well, why not just keep him?
Well, because Adam is deeply beholden to the war industry. He gets almost all of his money from the military-industrial complex, and it shows. It shows in his vote for the Iraq War, where I lost friends and people I know have died. He voted in favor of the Patriot Act, which we're still struggling to get out from under. He voted for the authorized use of military force, and he voted to sell cluster bombs to the Saudi Arabians. And you see it all the time. And the thing I try to tell people is we're not just buying action, we're buying inaction. We're buying silence. When these corporations come in and they give him all this money, they're buying him to be quiet about things, to just vote with the military-industrial complex, misremember votes, to misunderstand bills that he voted for. That's what we're paying for. We're paying for silence. We're paying for feigned ignorance, and we're tired of it. This is one of the deepest, darkest, bluest districts in the country. We speak 160 different languages. We are incredibly diverse and incredibly progressive. We need a representative in office that's going to demonstrate that to the rest of the world.
So this is what frustrates me about mainstream media coverage, because they will often say, and certainly establishment Democrats in Washington will say, well, Adam Smith's perfectly progressive enough. What's the big deal, right? And so, and to me, even if you're not sure that he's doing whatever Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and L3 Communications and all these defense companies who contribute to him want, I still don't know whether to trust them or not. Whereas, Sarah, you're not taking any of that money, right? So nope. Who do you raise money from?
I raise money from kitchen workers. I raise money from gas station attendants. I raise money from local police officers. I raise money from people because I don't want there to ever be a question of whose motives I'm working with. I want it to be very clear and apparent to everybody that I am here to work for, of, and because of the people. This is what I want to do. I want to represent people. I'm not here to represent corporations. I'm not here to co-sponsor bills and take credit for other people's work. I'm here to push forward progressive legislation that matters to us. In 22 years, if you have not been a champion for progressive legislation, you are not a progressive. If you are the former vice chair of the New Democrats coalition, you are not a progressive and you don't know how to be. It is time that we pass that baton to the next generation of deep blue progressives in this district, and that's what I want to step up and do. I'm just asking for the baton for the next generation.
Yeah, if you don't know, the New Democrat coalition is the conservative wing of the Democratic Party. In Washington's 9th district, where you have one of the bluest districts in the country, why in the world would you have a conservative Democrat who's apparently proud to be a conservative Democrat? That's why he joined that coalition. So yeah. Look, if this is why we're less than a week out. This is why everybody's got to go find people in these districts, okay? So if you live in Washington's 9th district, great, amazing. If you don't, think about it, somebody you know might live in that district. And so the website's votesarahsmith.com, and you could volunteer, you could donate. It's not too late. In fact, this is the most important time to do it, okay? You need all the volunteers you can get to knock on doors, get out the vote, and let people know. Because the advantage Adam Smith has is incumbency. That means he raises a ton of money from corporate PACs, but he likely has the media on his side because they love incumbents. But I'm guessing that, Sarah, based on my experience with all the other districts that I've talked to. So in your case, by the way, I feel like I'm in the Hunger Games plus Game of Thrones. How's it going in District 13? So, I hear you guys are leading the rebellion. No, seriously though, in your race, I'm curious, I don't know. How has the media treated it? Have they treated it as a real competition and a fair race, or have they leaned towards thinking, well, he's the legitimate candidate?
They're actually really struggling with how to report on our race. Because it's dem on dem, and this is not something that the media out here is really used to. So it's a lot of individual profiles of both of us where they ask us what our differences are. And I just recently got interviewed by the Associated Press. We did an interview with the Seattle Times. We just did another one with the Intercept this morning. And we're still getting the word out that this race is important and this race matters and it's significant because of how much change this district has gone through. This district has changed so much that the Democratic Socialist was more popular than the Republican, and nobody saw it coming, which means that this race could be one of the most progressive races in the entire country. But we're also competing with the 8th next door, and they're trying to flip it from red to blue. So a lot of the media attention is focused there. But when they're here, they don't really talk a whole lot about us. They kind of act like they're kind of laissez-faire about it. They're like, oh yeah, and 2 Democrats are running in the 9th. And it's makes me sad because this race is actually incredibly interesting and incredibly important. But, it is what it is. So we focus on our roots. We go to the grassroots media. We meet whatever media requests come into us. We talk to whoever wants to talk to us. We reach out. We do whatever we can. We do our due diligence. But we remember where we came from. We focus on our grassroots podcasts, our grassroots news outlets, grassroots media. That stuff is important. And if I can use my platform to help them grow, then I will have used this platform for good and this candidacy for good. And if I win, I can continue to do that. So that's what I'm hoping to do.
Man, I love what a fighter you are, Sarah. I just love it. So let's talk about what you would do if you got into office. So what would be your top priorities as the representative of that district?
My top priorities would be getting corporate money out of politics, because I firmly believe that with any progressive agenda, if we want to have any hope of actually getting it passed, we have to fight back against the influence of corporate money in our system. I also want to focus on healthcare. I want to make sure that we are pushing for Medicare for all, for single payer Medicare for all in a real way where there is everybody in and nobody out. I want to fight for a student debt bailout and a student debt relief package, as well as debt-free education. And then I also want to start fighting on climate change, because those are 4 things that we need to implement now. We don't have time to wait, especially on climate change. We have to start moving now.
Well, it's interesting because, the corruption, unfortunately, is led by a lot of the big banks, and you listed that number 1 on your priority. Didn't Adam Smith attack you in a debate for working at Citibank?
Yes, he tried to make it sound like a $10 an hour call center worker was single-handedly responsible for the financial crash of 2008. And I disagreed passionately. And I also recognize that people have to eat. Did I want to work for Citibank? No, it was not my dream job. But, I have no money. I had to keep a roof over my head. I had to put food in my mouth and I had to pay for my utilities. So I took a job that would hire me and paid me $10 an hour. And I did the best I could with what I got. I worked in the one part of the department that actually let me help people who were experiencing foreclosure. I'd reached out and went above and beyond my corporation more than once, which I know for a fact multiple people did, because after that clip came out, I got inundated with stories of people who were like, I used to be a banker and I would bend the rules all the time for folks because I thought it was wrong. And people that are like, I used to work in insurance and I used to bend the rules too because people were hurting and what they were doing was wrong. And this is the story of us. This is the story of the working class. We reach out and we put ourselves at risk to help one another. And we're only making $10 an hour, $7.50 an hour, $12 an hour. But we do what we can with the tools we are given because we have to eat, but we also have to help each other. And we stick together as often as we can, and we fight back in whatever ways we can against that system that's been oppressing us. And Adam has to remember, he's the one that voted to bail out the banks, not me. And he's definitely not the one that voted or put forth any kind of legislation to help the homeowners who lost their homes in that crash. And he still hasn't put forth anything to help those families that are still reeling from the effects of the recession and may never recover.
Man, Sarah, you gotta win. So look, she's a real person. She's gonna fight for you guys. So you gotta fight for her. That's how. Otherwise, you're gonna get back. You're gonna get the Lockheed Martin guy again. So that's your choice. And so one of the reasons Sarah's race is so important is because there's two things that the Just Democrats want to prove. One is that we can actually run better campaigns in purple and red districts and states because we actually care about the people and we're not corrupted, and that's going to make a huge difference. The other reason is there's no reason why deeply blue districts should be represented by conservative corporatist Democrats. It's crazy. So here's a perfect opportunity in a perfect district to put a progressive Democrat in rather than a corporate Democrat. So Sarah, I love the campaign you run. I love your outfit today. And if you're Daenerys, though, does that make me Varys?
There's been a lot of fighting over who gets to be Varys on the campaign, but I'm willing to say it's you.
Okay, all right. I'll take it. All right, Sarah Smith, everybody. VoteSarahSmith.com is the website. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.